was a cold morning in a small village nestled between rolling hills and dense forests of what we now call medieval England. The sun had only just begun to peek over the horizon, casting pale, golden rays across the thatched roofs and cobbled streets. The village was waking slowly, a symphony of cocks crowing, carts creaking, and the faint clatter of wooden buckets being dragged along muddy lanes. Children, no older than 8 or 9, were already stirring, rubbing sleep from their eyes and hurrying to begin their day. Often before their elders had even lit the hearth fires, taught life for these children was starkly different from anything a child today might imagine. There were no schools in the sense we understand them, no toys made of plastic or metal, no long hours spent staring at books or screens. Instead, the children's world revolved around survival, labor, and a few moments of simple play that could be stolen between chores. Many of them had roles that were more akin to miniature adults than the carefree youngsters in modern times. Boys would follow their fathers into the fields or workshops, learning to tend sheep, sow seeds, or hammer iron, while girls shadowed their mothers, fetching water from the well, tending the vegetable garden, or learning the ways of cooking over a wood-fired hearth. By the time the morning sun was fully risen, the village was alive with activity. A group of boys gathered near the river, bare feet splashing in the cold water as they learned to fish with rudimentary nets or sharpened sticks. They shouted and laughed, their voices echoing over the water, oblivious to the dangers that lurked in the woods nearby. Wolves were known to roam in the forest, and occasionally a fox would slip into the chicken coops, stealing eggs while the children weren't looking. Yet, danger was part of life, a fact learned early, and the children were taught from the very start to respect it and avoid it if possible. Meanwhile, in the central square, the girls were already hard at work. Some carried pails of water from the nearby well, balancing them carefully on their heads or shoulders, careful not to spill a single drop. Others sat on rough wooden benches, hushed in concentration as they helped with weaving baskets, spinning wool, or sewing patches onto worn clothing. Laughter sometimes broke through, especially when one of the younger girls would chase a stray chicken or pull a prank on her sister. These moments of joy were fleeting, precious interludes in a day otherwise filled with toil. By mid-morning, most children were fully engaged in tasks that today might seem impossible for their age. Boys learned to handle small tools, carving wooden toys, or helping with construction work on barns and fences. Their hands grew calloused quickly, and their muscles strengthened from the repeated lifting, chopping, and hauling. Girls, on the other hand, practiced their domestic skills with meticulous care. They learned to churn butter, knead bread dough, and tend to the tiny herb gardens behind their homes. Each task, though tedious, carried lessons about responsibility and the rhythm of life that governed the village. Despite the harshness of daily life, play was never entirely absent. During the rare moments when chores allowed, children would gather in the open fields or the shadowed corners of the village square. They invented games from whatever was at hand. A stick could become a sword, a hoop spun along the ground could be a racetrack, a pile of stones could be castles under siege. They played tag, hide and seek, or mock battles, mimicking the older boys and men of the village, imagining themselves as knights defending a castle or brave archers in the thick of a forest skirmish. These games, though simple, were vibrant and full of imagination, a stark contrast to the otherwise utilitarian existence of village life. Lunch, such as it was, arrived in the form of simple bread, cheese, and perhaps a few vegetables pulled from the garden. Children sat together in small clusters, sharing what little they had, speaking in whispers or laughter, trading bits of food or a favorite shell or stone as a token of friendship. Meals were short. The children were expected to return quickly to their work. Hunger was a constant companion, and wasting food was not tolerated. The lessons learned at mealtimes were not only about nourishment, but also about community, sharing, and resourcefulness. Afternoons were often the most strenuous part of the day. Boys would head further into the fields with their fathers or older brothers, learning the intricacies of planting, weeding, and harvesting. They learned to read the land, to feel the soil, and to anticipate the weather, though they could not know the science behind it. Girls spent these hours assisting in the preparation of meals for the evening, tending to livestock, or helping with laundry, pounding clothes against stone basins in icy water. Every task required strength, patience, and attention to detail. Mistakes were met with correction, sometimes harshly, but always with the intention of teaching survival skills that would serve them for life. Evening brought a quiet reprieve, a time when children could catch their breath. Fires were lit in the hearths, casting warm, flickering light across the rooms of small cottages. Families gathered to eat supper, a modest affair, but richer than the morning fare. Stories were told, some legends, some local news, some recounting the deeds of ancestors or the saints from distant lands. These stories were a vital part of childhood, offering imagination, moral guidance, and a sense of belonging to something larger than themselves. Even in these moments of warmth, the weight of responsibility lingered. Children were reminded of the work yet to be done, the chores still awaiting them the next day. As night fell, the village settled into a gentle hush, broken only by the occasional bark of a dog or the distant howl of a wolf. Children, exhausted from the day's labors, curled up on straw-stuffed mattresses or simple blankets, sometimes sharing a bed with siblings to keep warm. Sleep was deep and unbroken, yet dreams were often fleeting, filled with images from the Datha River, the fields, the games, the animals, the firelight flickering across the walls. They dreamed of adventure, of far-off lands, or of the tiny triumphs they had accomplished that day. Life in the medieval village was harsh, demanding, and unforgiving, yet it was also rich with lessons that shaped every child. They learned patience, resilience, and the importance of community. They discovered joy in simple pleasures and developed skills that ensured survival. Their childhoods, though stripped of modern comforts, were deeply human, steeped in connection to the land, to family, and to the rhythms of life that would guide them into adulthood. And as the village slept, the children dreamed not of toys or idle pleasures, but of the life they knew, hard, beautiful, and entirely their own. The next morning arrived with a damp chill, the kind that seeped through the cracks in the wooden shutters and made the straw mattresses even less forgiving. Mist clung to the fields like a delicate veil, and the forest beyond the village loomed dark and mysterious, as if holding secrets the children were not yet ready to uncover. Yet, despite the cold and the gray light, the children were already stirring, guided by habit and necessity rather than desire. There was no room for lingering in bed when work awaited. Even the youngest were expected to contribute in some meaningful way at the edge of the village. A group of boys gathered around the blacksmith's workshop. The air was heavy with the smell of coal smoke and molten metal, and the rhythmic clanking of hammer against iron echoed like a heartbeat. These boys were apprentices in the most literal sense. From a young age, they were taught the fundamentals of shaping metal, of learning patience, precision, and strength. One boy, no older than 10, gripped a small hammer clumsily, swinging at a glowing piece of iron while the blacksmith barked instructions, correcting the angle, the force, the timing. Every miss was a lesson, every successful strike a small triumph that made the boy's chest swell with pride. Meanwhile, the girls were busy with tasks that required a different kind of skill, but demanded equal diligence. Some sat beside their mothers at spinning wheels, their small hands awkwardly twisting raw wool into threads that would later become clothing or blankets. Others carried buckets of milk from the small herd of goats, careful not to spill a drop. The youngest girls often shadowed the older ones, learning by observation more than instruction, mimicking every movement, every gesture. Their eyes were wide with concentration, and the occasional giggle would escape when someone's skirt got tangled or a goat nudged them unexpectedly by mid-morning. The village was alive with the smells and sounds of labor. Bread was baking in the communal oven, filling the air with warmth and the promise of nourishment. Chickens clucked in the yards, and the occasional crow of a rooster reminded everyone that time was passing, that another part of the day awaited them. Children moved between chores and plays seamlessly, as if instinctively knowing which moments were for work and which for a fleeting reprieve. A stick found near the edge of a field could become a sword for an imaginary duel. A pile of stones transformed into a fortress under siege. Lunch was a brief but important ritual. Families ate together when possible, though the work never truly stopped. Some children brought food from home to the fields or workshops, nibbling quietly as they continued to practice their tasks. Bread, cheese, and small fruits or vegetables were common. Simple sustenance that gave energy but left little room for indulgence. The elders emphasized the importance of eating efficiently. Wasted food was unthinkable. During these meals, older children might instruct the younger ones, passing down the knowledge and routines that kept the village functioning in the afternoon. The boys were sent to tend the livestock in the surrounding fields. Sheep, goats, and a few cows needed constant attention. And the children learned to guide, feed, and protect the animals. This was not play, though it sometimes resembled it to an outsider. A boy might chase a stray sheep, laughing as it darted between tufts of grass, yet every action had purpose. Mistakes could mean lost livestock, which would affect the entire family. The girls often helped with the gardens or prepared for evening meals, chopping vegetables, stirring pots, or mending worn clothing. Their movements were careful and deliberate, honed by repetition and necessity. As the sun dipped low in the sky, the village children began to gather in small pockets of conversation and play. They recounted the day's tasks with animated gestures, comparing who had carried the heaviest pail, who had caught the most fish, or who had managed to milk the goat without spilling. These stories, told with laughter and exaggeration, strengthened friendships and built a shared sense of achievement. For a brief moment, the weight of responsibility lifted, placed by the simple joy of companionship and recognition. Evenings were times of quiet reflection and learning. By the firelight, children were taught lessons not found in books, but in stories, songs, and hands-on guidance. Tales of local heroes, saints, and legendary figures were told to instill values of courage, honesty, and perseverance. Some children practiced reading or basic arithmetic if a parent had the knowledge to teach them, though this was rare. Most lessons were practical: how to mend a torn garment, how to light a fire safely, how to carry a bucket of water without spilling it. Every skill had purpose. Every moment of attention contributed to survival. The night brought its own lessons. Children learned to recognize the sounds of the forest, distinguishing between the bark of a dog, screech of an owl, or the distant howl of a wolf. Darkness was both frightening and instructive. It taught caution, awareness, and respect for the natural world. Those who slept outdoors, on rare occasions during harvest or festivals, experienced firsthand the vulnerability and beauty of the night. Stars blanketed the sky, and the children would lie awake, whispering, pointing out constellations, and imagining distant lands they had never seen, even in sleep. Their lives were intertwined with responsibility. Dreams were often filled with echoes of the day, the weight of a pail, the laughter of friends, the lessons of work and play intertwined. In these dreams, they processed the small victories and failures, preparing themselves mentally and physically for the next day. Life was relentless, and the children learned early that each day demanded effort, focus, and resilience. Yet, within the demands, there was also a warmth of community and the subtle joy of mastering new skills. By the time the village settled into the quiet hush of night, each child had experienced the full spectrum of childhood in the medieval world: labor, learning, play, fear, courage, and small triumphs. Their existence was shaped not by convenience or leisure, but by the rhythms of work, the cycles of nature, and the lessons passed down through generations. They carried with them the knowledge that life was demanding but rewarding, that each task, no matter how small, mattered. And as they drifted into sleep, the children of the village dreamed not of toys or distant cities, but of the life they knew intimately, their world of fields, forests, fires, and the enduring bonds of family and community. The dawn broke, pale and misty, a thin veil of fog lingering over the village, as if the world itself were reluctant to wake. Children stirred quietly, many already awake before the first call of the rooster. The morning air was crisp and smelled faintly of wet earth, smoke, and the animals that had been tended since before sunrise. Each child moved with a practiced rhythm, a dance, a routine they had been repeating for years, learning from their parents, older siblings, and the village elders. In one corner of the village, a small boy carried a basket of eggs from the hen house to his mother, careful not to crack a single one. His hands, small but calloused from work, gripped the woven basket tightly. As he walked, a younger sibling ran after him, tripping over the uneven stones of the path. The boy steadied the younger child with a patient hand, murmuring instructions and gentle scoldings in equal measure. Lessons of responsibility began early, and even moments that might seem playful to an outsider were imbued with purpose. Across the village, girls were already busy tending fires and fetching water from the well. One girl balanced a heavy pail on her hip as she trudged down the muddy path, her bare feet squelching in the soft earth. She passed a small boy practicing with a wooden sword, who paused to wave before continuing his imaginary battle. The village was alive with sounds of work, the clatter of wooden wheels, the low murmur of conversation, the bleating of goats, the rhythmic chopping of firewood. Children's lives were woven into the fabric of this daily toil. They were not observers, but active participants from an age that would shock modern sensibilities. By mid-morning, the fields were alive with activity. Boys and girls worked side by side, though in different tasks, learning the skills that would sustain them for life. Boys guided oxen to plow the soil, their hands gripping the rough wooden handles as they struggled against the weight of the animals and the earth. Sweat ran down their faces, and dirt clung to their clothes and skin, a visible mark of effort and growing strength. Girls worked in the vegetable gardens, pulling weeds, planting seeds, and tending young plants with careful fingers. Each action was deliberate, each mistake an opportunity for correction, each success a small triumph that brought pride and skill. Breaks were few but cherished. Children would sometimes pause to drink water, catch their breath, or watch the clouds drifting lazily across the sky. During these moments, they might engage in quiet games, testing agility and imagination. A stick became a sword, a stone, a projectile, a small hollow in the ground, a fortress. These games were fleeting but vital, providing mental relief, camaraderie, the chance to practice agility, strategy, and cooperation. Even within play, there was a sense of order, as if the skills learned in games were extensions of their daily labor. Lunch was simple, often just bread, cheese, and a few vegetables or fruit. Families ate together if they could, sharing stories and laughter, though even during meals, instruction continued. Older children might teach younger siblings how to cut bread properly, carry water, or mend clothing. Lessons were practical, designed to ensure survival and competence. The midday meal was brief, and children returned quickly to their work, knowing that the day would not pause for leisure. The afternoon brought the heaviest labor. Boys often accompanied their fathers to forests, gathering firewood, repairing fences, or assisting in hunting small game. Every trip carried risks, thorns, wild animals, and the ever-present challenge of navigating uneven terrain. Yet these trips were also lessons in observation, patience, and endurance. Girls, meanwhile, focused on domestic tasks, learning to spin, wool, churn butter, cook over open flames, and care for younger siblings. Each chore, while demanding, was an integral part of life, preparing them for the roles they would assume as adults. Evenings, however, offered a softer side to life. As the sun dipped behind distant hills, casting long shadows across the village, children gathered near the central square or around hearth fires. Laughter echoed as they recounted the day's work and adventures, exaggerating feats of skill or bravery, weaving a shared tapestry of accomplishment and imagination. Some played games of chase or hide-and-seek. Others sat quietly listening. Two older villagers recount tales of saints, heroes, and legends. These stories carried wisdom, moral guidance, and a sense of identity, reinforcing the values of the village while nurturing imagination. Nightfall brought a quiet hush. Children retreated to small, straw-stuffed beds or shared blankets with siblings, curling up to conserve warmth. Even in sleep, lessons persisted. Dreams were shaped by the day's work, the animals tended, the games played, and the stories heard. Children dreamed of courage, ingenuity, and small victories, internalizing the lessons that would carry them into adulthood. The night was both a time of rest and subtle preparation, space where the mind processed experiences and strengthened resilience. Through all of these cycles, dawn to dusk, work to play, toil to story, children learned not only skills for survival, but the rhythms of life itself. They discovered the meaning of responsibility, the rewards of effort, and the joy of shared labor. Childhood in this medieval village was demanding, sometimes harsh, yet rich with the textures of a life deeply intertwined with family, community, and nature. Each day left an imprint, shaping the mind, body, and spirit, preparing the young for the continuum of life that awaited them, where labor, learning, and laughter would remain inseparable threads woven into the fabric of their existence. The morning fog had barely lifted when the children were already stirring in the village. The air was damp and earthy, carrying the faint smell of smoke from last night's hearth fires. Even the smallest among them seemed to know the rhythm of the day, rising before many adults, alert and ready for work. The village was a living organism, and the children were active parts of it, each movement deliberate, each action purposeful. In the fields, a group of boys carried baskets of vegetables to the central market area, their bare feet slipping occasionally in the muddy paths. They learned early that strength, balance, and attentiveness were not optional. Each misstep could result in broken produce, wasted effort, and the disapproval of elders. Some of the older boys assisted their fathers in repairing fences, learning the importance of precision and patience as they hammered posts into the earth and tied rails together with rope. These tasks, while exhausting, were exercises in endurance and focus. Sets brought recognition, however modest. At the same time, girls were busy with domestic chores. Some tended the village chickens, feeding them, gathering eggs, and ensuring the birds were safe from predators. Others assisted their mothers with laundry, washing clothes in the cold water of the river, or pounding them against stone basins until clean. The youngest girls often helped by sorting small items or fetching water, learning through imitation and careful guidance. Every task, no matter how small, carried meaning, preparing them for a future where competence in these skills would ensure the survival and comfort of their family. By mid-morning, the children found moments of reprieve, often through play that mimicked the adult world. Boys practiced archery or swordplay with makeshift bows and sticks, imagining themselves as knights defending the village or heroes in distant lands. Girls engaged in imaginative games as well, crafting small dolls from scraps of cloth and straw, or building miniature houses from twigs and mud. These brief moments of creativity were essential, a reprieve from labor that also nurtured intelligence, resourcefulness, and social bonds. Meals were simple and often eaten quickly, a mix of bread, cheese, and seasonal vegetables. Sharing these meals reinforced a sense of community and cooperation, Older children were expected to teach the younger ones manners, the proper way to eat, and the importance of conserving food. Even during mealtime, the lessons of responsibility and attentiveness were present. A moment's carelessness could result in waste or injury. The afternoon brought more physically demanding tasks. Boys might help in the barns, feeding animals, repairing structures, or fetching water from the well. Girls continued to manage domestic duties, preparing food for evening meals, tending to small gardens, or assisting with care for younger siblings. Every task was both a lesson and a contribution to the household and the village. They learned about the cycles of nature, the needs of animals, the patience required to cultivate crops, and the diligence necessary for domestic life. Despite the heavy labor, moments of camaraderie and laughter persisted. Children would steal small breaks, running across the fields, chasing each other, or playing tag around the village square. Even these moments were tinged with learning, teaching agility, strategy, and teamwork. Older children often guided these games, instructing the younger ones and fostering bonds that reinforced village cohesion. These playful interludes, though brief, were vital, offering respite from labor while nurturing creativity and social skills. As evening approached, the village grew quieter. Fires were lit in hearths, and children gathered near their families to share the day's stories and learnings. Tales of courage, ingenuity, and moral lessons were told, reinforcing values and nurturing imagination. Songs and chants were common, teaching rhythm, memory, and communal participation. By now, the children had spent nearly every waking moment in either labor or learning, yet these evenings offered warmth, comfort, and a sense of identity. Night brought both rest and reflection. Children retreated to their modest sleeping spaces, sharing beds or blankets with siblings. Sleep was deep, often unbroken, but dreams carried echoes of the day, the weight of chores, the excitement of games, the guidance of elders, and the simple pleasures of companionship. They internalized lessons, both practical and ethical, shaping their understanding of the world and their place within it. Life in the village, harsh and demanding though it was, left children with skills, resilience, and wisdom far beyond their years. Every day, they learned the balance between work and play, responsibility and imagination, survival and joy. Through repetition, observation, and guidance, they became adept at navigating the challenges of their environment while finding moments of beauty and camaraderie. By the time the village slept, each child had been molded by the rhythm of medieval life, an existence defined by labor, learning, play, and the enduring bonds of family and community. The morning broke with the sound of roosters crowing faintly across the village, and a thin mist clung stubbornly to the fields. The children, already awake, moved through their routines with the quiet familiarity of those who had long accepted the rhythm of their lives. Bare feet pressed against the damp earth, hands clutched baskets or tools, and small voices whispered instructions or encouragement to siblings and friends. Every action was purposeful. Even the youngest knew that idleness was not an option, and that survival depended on learning, practicing, and working from the earliest age near the village well. A group of girls drew water in heavy wooden buckets, their shoulders strained under the weight, arms trembling slightly as they balanced the pails. A younger girl struggled with the largest bucket, and her older sister guided her gently, instructing her on the best way to steady the load. "Keep your back straight, little one. Step slowly. Don't spill a drop," the older girl said, her voice calm but firm. This was more than a lesson in carrying water. It was an exercise in patience, perseverance, and responsibility skills that would carry the girls into adulthood. Meanwhile, the boys were already at work in the fields. One boy, no older than 10, guided a small ox along a furrowed line, trying to keep the plow steady. The earth was thick and stubborn, clinging to the metal blade and resisting their effort. The boy's father walked beside him, correcting his grip, adjusting his pace, and reminding him to watch the path ahead. Each mistake became a teaching moment, and each small success brought a quiet sense of pride. The rhythm of labor was demanding, yet it taught patience, focus, and the satisfaction of contributing to the family's welfare. By mid-morning, the village square began to hum with activity. Merchants had set up simple stalls, selling vegetables, dried herbs, and handcrafted goods. Children ran errands for their families, carrying small bundles of goods, trading favors, peanut, or fetching items from neighboring homes. Even these errands were lessons in observation and judgment, as the children had to navigate the crowded square, recognize familiar faces, and complete their tasks without damaging goods or losing time. The bustle of the market was both a challenge and a form of informal education, teaching them about the world beyond their immediate chores. Lunch was a brief respite. Families gathered where they could, sharing bread, cheese, and the occasional fruit or vegetable. Children ate quickly, aware that the afternoon would demand renewed effort. Conversations were lively yet purposeful, often centered on the day's work. The tasks still ahead were the news brought by travelers passing through the village. Even in these moments of rest, children absorbed lessons in social interaction, resourcefulness, and the importance of communication within their tight-knit community. In the afternoon, the labor intensified. Boys helped repair fences along the fields, lifting heavy wooden rails and driving stakes into the soil. Their hands were raw, knuckles scraped, but the work continued under the watchful eyes of older men who guided them with instruction, correction, and sometimes gentle reprimand. Girls returned to domestic duties, tending to livestock, preparing meals, or weaving fabric from spun wool. The repetition of these tasks strengthened skill, endurance, and concentration, turning even the smallest child into a capable contributor to the household. Despite the demanding nature of their work, children found small moments of play and camaraderie. A boy might chase a goat, laughing as it darted through the grass, while girls played quietly near the garden, making tiny dolls from straw and cloth scraps. These moments were brief, yet invaluable. They allowed imagination to flourish, bonds to deepen, and coordinations, strategy, social skills to develop organically within the structure of everyday life. Even in play, the lessons of survival, creativity, and cooperation were present, reinforcing the connection between work, learning, and leisure. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the village, children returned to their homes, weary yet alert. Hearth fires were lit, smoke curling into the evening sky, and families gathered to share the final meal of the day. Tales were told, some of local heroes, others of saints or legends from distant lands. Songs were sung, teaching rhythm, memory, and cultural continuity. By listening and participating, children absorbed moral guidance, historical context, and a sense of belonging. Even in rest, they were learning, preparing themselves for the responsibilities of adulthood. Nightfall brought a hushed calm. Children settled into beds stuffed with straw or shared blankets, often with siblings close by for warmth. Outside, the wind rustled through the trees and distant owls called to one another. Inside, the children's minds processed the day's lessons work completed, mistakes made, victories earned. Sleep was deep and restorative, yet dreams were often infused with the day's experiences, the weight of labor, the joy of games, and the subtle thrill of learning new skills. Through all of these cycles, dawn to dusk, labor to play, lessons to rest, the children of the village grew resilient, capable, and deeply connected to their community and the land around them. Life was hard, unyielding, and filled with responsibility, yet it was also rich with small joys, camaraderie, and the profound satisfaction of mastering the skills that ensured survival. Each day left an imprint, teaching endurance, creativity, and a sense of place, shaping childhoods that were neither idle nor frivolous, but purposeful, instructive, and intimately tied to the rhythms of medieval life. Dawn arrived quietly over the village. the sky streaked with pale pinks and muted golds. Mist hung over the fields like a delicate curtain, softening the outlines of thatched cottages and cobblestone paths. Children were already awake, their movements careful and purposeful. The youngest stirred first, crawling from straw-stuffed beds and nudging siblings awake. Life began early, and every hour was accounted for. Idle moments were rare, and even play was woven into the fabric of daily responsibilities. At the edge of the village, boys gathered near the blacksmith's forge, where the smell of coal smoke mixed with the metallic temps of molten iron. The forge roared with heat, and the older blacksmiths guided apprentices in the proper handling of tools, the correct timing of hammer strikes, and the delicate observation of metal as it cooled and hardened. A boy no older than 11 gripped the small hammer tightly, striking at a glowing iron piece under careful supervision. Every blow taught him not only skill, but patience, focus, and the consequence of inattention. The rhythm of hammering became a meditation, the repetition shaping both mind and body. Meanwhile, girls moved with quiet diligence through domestic chores. Buckets of water were carried from the well, balanced on small shoulders. Laundry was scrubbed against rough stones, rinsed in the icy river, and hung to dry in the morning breeze. Others tended gardens, planting seeds, pulling weeds, or harvesting fresh vegetables. Each task, while mundane, carried lessons of responsibility, precision, and resilience. Younger girls learned by watching older siblings, mimicking their actions, and gradually mastering skills through observation and repetition. By mid-morning, the village square had begun to buzz with activity. Children ran errands for their families, delivering eggs, butter, or small crafted items to neighbors. The market, though simple, required observation, quick thinking, and careful balance. Even these small tasks were lessons in commerce, negotiation, and community awareness. A misstep could mean wasted goods or upset neighbors, and such mistakes were corrected immediately, assuring that lessons were remembered for the future. Lunchtime was brief but necessary. Families gathered when possible, sharing bread, cheese, and seasonal vegetables. Conversations centered on the day's tasks, the news of passing travelers, or stories passed down from elders. Children listened intently, absorbing lessons of history, morality, and the natural world. Even the act of eating became a training ground for patience, manners, and attentiveness, preparing them for the social structures they would navigate as they grew older. The afternoon brought renewed labor. Boys might head into the fields with their fathers, tending crops or guiding oxen through furrows. They learned to read the land, feel the texture of the soil, and anticipate weather changes. Strength, endurance, and observation were all exercised in the span of a few hours. Girls continued with domestic responsibilities, spinning wool, preparing meals, and tending to younger siblings or household animals. Tasks were repetitive, yet essential, reinforcing skill, patience, and a sense of accomplishment. Yet, even amidst labor, children found moments of play and creativity. A stick became a sword in mock battle. A small patch of dirt transformed into a battleground for imaginary armies. A pile of pebbles turned into a fortress under siege. These interludes, though brief, nurtured imagination, problem-solving, and social bonds. Older children guided younger ones, teaching rules, strategy, and cooperation, turning play into another form of learning and growth. As evening approached, fires were lit in hearths across the village, casting flickering light across wooden walls and straw floors. Families gathered for the final meal of the day, sharing simple food while recounting the events of the day. Tales of saints, heroes, and local legends were told, providing moral guidance, inspiration, and cultural continuity. Children absorbed these stories eagerly, their minds forming connections between work, play, and the values held dear by the community. Nightfall brought quiet reflection and rest. Children settled into beds or shared blankets with siblings, listening to the wind through the trees and the distant calls of nocturnal animals. Sleep was deep and restorative, yet dreams reflected the day's experiences, labor completed, games played, lessons learned. Each day reinforced endurance, observation, and community ties, shaping children into capable, resilient members of the village. Through these cycles of work, play, and storytelling, childhood in the medieval village was demanding but rich with purpose. Every task, from tending animals to fetching water, every game, every story, contributed to a life intimately connected to the rhythms of nature, family, and community. By the time the village slept, each child had moved closer to mastery of the skills, knowledge, and resilience that would define their existence in a world both harsh and profoundly human. The final morning in the village arrived quietly, with a soft, golden light filtering through the mist that lingered over the fields. Children stirred slowly, but with purpose, moving through routines that had become second nature. Even in the calm of early dawn, there was a sense of anticipation, a quiet understanding that each day carried lessons, challenges, and fleeting joys that shaped them into the adults they would one day become. Boys gathered near the fields, carrying tools and small baskets, ready to assist with the day's labor. They guided oxen along the furrows, tilled soil for planting, or helped repair fences and barns. Each movement was precise, honed through years of repetition and instruction. Mistakes were corrected immediately but patiently, ensuring that lessons were remembered without unnecessary fear or shame. Strength, dexterity, and awareness of the land were cultivated naturally through these tasks, intertwining physical effort with practical wisdom. Meanwhile, girls moved through domestic chores with quiet diligence. Buckets of water were drawn from the well, meals prepared over open fires, and laundry scrubbed against stone basins. Younger children followed their older siblings, learning by imitation and observation, gradually absorbing skills that would serve them for a lifetime. Even small tasks, like sorting herbs or gathering firewood, carried lessons in responsibility, patience, and careful attention to detail. These chores, though repetitive, were essential in teaching children the rhythms of life, the importance of community, and the value of contribution. By mid-morning, the village square became alive with activity. Children delivered goods, assisted neighbors, and ran errands, developing awareness, judgment, and cooperation. Each action required care, and even the smallest mistake was a lesson in attention and perseverance. At times, brief moments of play arose naturally between chores. Boys engaged in mock battles with sticks and stones. Girls crafted dolls from scraps, and laughter echoed across the village. Play, though fleeting, was integral, blending imagination, skill, and social learning into the harsh yet vibrant tapestry of daily life. Lunch arrived in modest portions: bread, cheese, and seasonal vegetables. Families shared food while discussing the day's tasks and recounting stories from elders. Lessons were embedded in these narratives: courage, moral guidance, and historical knowledge passed down from generation to generation. Children absorbed these stories eagerly, internalizing values that would guide their actions and shape their understanding of the world. Even mealtime reinforced the interconnectedness of work, community, and learning, teaching the children to appreciate both effort and sustenance. Afternoon labor tested endurance and strength. Boys worked in the fields or tended livestock, learning to anticipate the needs of animals and the demands of the land. Girls managed domestic tasks, prepared meals, cared for younger siblings, and spun wool into thread. The repetition of these duties cultivated skill, focus, and resilience. Yet moments of creativity and play were never absent. A stick could be a sword, a small pile of stones, a castle under siege. These small reprieves were vital, nurturing imagination, strategy, and social bonds, while reinforcing lessons of cooperation and ingenuity. As the sun dipped low, the village settled into a gentle quiet. Fires were lit, casting warm, flickering light across the cottages. Families gathered for their final meal of the day, and children listened intently to stories, songs, and teachings. Tales of heroes, saints, and local legends carried wisdom, instilling values of courage, honesty, and perseverance. Music, chants, and communal laughter reinforced bonds between family members and neighbors, strengthening the fabric of the village community. Nightfall brought the final hush. Children lay in straw-stuffed beds or shared blankets with siblings. The day's labor etched in tired limbs in quiet satisfaction. Outside, the wind rustled through trees and distant animals stirred in the shadows. While inside, children's minds reflected on the day's lessons, games, and stories. Dreams merged with reality, filled with echoes of labor, companionship, and imagination. In these quiet moments, children internalized everything they had learned: the value of work, the joys of simple pleasures, the resilience needed to endure, and the bonds of family and community that would carry them through life. Childhood in this medieval village, though harsh, demanding, and unrelenting, had prepared them for the challenges of adulthood. They had grown strong, skilled, imaginative, and intimately connected to the land and the people around them. Each day had been a lesson in survival, morality, and social cohesion, punctuated by fleeting joys of play and camaraderie. And as the village slept under the starry night, the children, wrapped in warmth, in the quiet pride of a day well lived, dreamed of the life they knew: hard, beautiful, and wholly their own.